Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm going to be doing a live chat, answering any questions that you have. I realize it's probably pretty late for some of you, but I figured I'd jump on. I haven't done a live Q&A in a little bit of time, so I wanted to just go ahead and do that now. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. So we'll be jumping on this one, and yeah, I'm gonna pull up some Q&A stuff. So really like doing these live streams because I get to answer questions that maybe don't come up in other times, you know what I mean? So that's why I do these live Q&As, also to really just interact with you guys. I really like talking to those of you who are on here. Hey, how's it going? Where are you from? What are you doing? I do not know how to pronounce your name. I really wish there was a way to make that easier, but thanks for coming out. So something that's really cool that just came out is the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4. So let me see if I can pull it up real fast. But this compute module is, yeah, here we go. Okay, so the coolest thing about it's like, I don't know if it's groundbreaking per se, but it is really cool. So the general idea of something like this is to build all kinds of hardware applications using a very simple embedded computer, right? So for me, what's interesting is this thing can be 8 gigabytes of RAM built in. That's amazing. So if you chain these together and make a cluster out of them, you could end up having a really powerful cluster for, I don't know, let's say like $800, something like that, which would be amazing. So anyways, I'm super interested in checking this stuff out more in the future. Let me know if you guys are as well. So let's go ahead and answer some of these questions here. I am from California, Southern California. I was born in and raised here, and I also went to college here, but I have lived in other parts of the world. So thanks for the question. Django video live streaming. You will need to create an RMTP server. I think that's the protocol to do this. So Django itself isn't really that important to make that happen. I mean, it probably could play a role, but I think Nginx is going to be your big option there. Nginx is I believe, one of the best ways to actually have that live streaming. But it's not a trivial task, I will say that. It's not that hard, but it's definitely not trivial, especially if you want to scale it and bring it into production. On your local area network, it's not that big of a deal. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so this goes along with what you just mentioned about the live video streaming. Are you guys buddies or something? Like, you guys in class together asking this question? Curious to know that one. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. Thanks for coming out. So these live chats are a lot of fun. I really like doing them, but as any of you that have been on any of these before, I usually get really far behind. So a quick way to get your question answered is just doing one of those super chats. Every dollar counts. Like every penny, every rupee, everything counts towards making me do these a lot more, and also helping me make more content. So anyways, just wanted to mention that so you get your questions answered. From Morocco, you have many questions. Great, shoot away. Go ahead. Hey, how's it going? What's up? Thank you for thanking me, and I'm glad you enjoy the content. I've been doing it a while now. I really think I mean, honestly, I want to be doing more content, and that's also part of the reason I'm doing these live Q&As, to chat with you guys, see what you're interested in, see what the questions are. So yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Hey, Hemeth, what's up? Welcome back. Where's my hat? I'm just not wearing it today. I don't know. I don't always wear it. I might actually stop wearing it and just keep my head nice and trimmed up like this. Basically shaved head. Not shaved, but buzzed is what we call here. Thanks for the question. I'm glad you enjoy my contributions. Thank you. Love from India. Love it. Let's see here. Should I have front-end basics to become a back-end developer? I certainly think it's a good idea. It's not going to hurt you to know front-end basics to be a back-end developer. But there's a lot of things in the back-end, including DevOps, that don't necessarily require you to be a full master of front-end. Like, there's a lot of DevOps engineers that don't know how to use React or Vue, right? Because they don't need to. They work in the operations of networks and stuff like that. So it's just a whole heap of things that you can learn there. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. To me, it's like whatever you're interested in, you should learn that, right? And just learn it really, really well, and then start to diversify what you're interested in, hopefully. Whether that's software or not, because the more things you learn about just anything in life is going to help you with what you work on in other areas of your life. Just remember, specialization is for insects. So if you're looking to just do Django the rest of your career, you're looking for the wrong things, I think. You should be looking to cultivate this like skill, this really diverse skill set that brings you in all areas of what is needed to make a successful project. That's what I think, at least. Let's see here. How to apply CSS styles to the Django form or model form. That really went for a turn, didn't it? So you can add in widgets. Inside of widgets, you can add an attribute that allows you to add classes or an ID for customizing that. Django Crispy Forms makes it also really easy. So thanks for the question. I am well, thank you. How are you? Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you for the question. What's the main difference between Flask and Fast API? Well, Fast API is meant to be asynchronous from the get-go. You don't have to use it in an asynchronous term necessarily, but Fast API is that way. I think that's what I said. Fast API and Flask are very, very similar, though. So if you know Flask, it's not that hard to move into Fast API. Because really, in comparison to something like Django, really it's like little incremental additions to making a Flask or Fast API full-fledged project, right? So if you need a database, for example, you'll probably need to use something like SQL Alchemy, where it's not built into Flask or Fast API. If you need users, you'll need to install other things for that. So that's kind of one of the things about Flask and Fast API. Fast API has some benchmarks that make it faster in some cases, but if you take too long to build it, then I don't know, is it really faster? Anyways, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Reed, hey, welcome. Great to have you. I feel like you're a pretty good novice dev. I can't seem to make it to the leap to intermediate dev. In all projects, I hit some roadblock. Thoughts? Yeah, so that's really important to keep going with. When you hit those roadblocks, perhaps you don't solve it that day or that week or even that month or even that year. Jeez. But sticking with it to eventually solve that problem and trying to answer the questions that are causing that roadblock, right? So like make a list of 15 questions or 50 or 100 questions of like, how did I get to this roadblock and what is it that I'm trying to do, right? So like, how am I actually going to able to solve this? I think a big part of this is also building full-on projects yourself, right? So you say in all your projects, well, why don't you pick a project that you really want to exist? Like whatever it is. So a project that I've been working on that still needs quite a bit of love is actually these comments down here, right? So being able to display these and do it in a way that's outside of the YouTube chat, but allows me to go one by one. one of these things with these live scrolls or these live Q&As or any sort of live stream that is with the chat, if you scroll just a little bit, it jumps over, a lot of different questions. And with how I have it set up, I've got this. Well, there were a number of challenges that came with that. One of them was how to actually use the YouTube data API. I still have a challenge. I still have a problem with refreshing the tokens. I'm not exactly sure why that's not working. Still haven't solved it, but at some point I will, right? So the other part of solving roadblocks is, well, just letting them sit for a little while. Perhaps they're not as big of a roadblock as you might think. So the leap really comes when you can take a step back and know what problems you should solve right now and what problems you should wait for later, right? A good example of this is if you learn some Django and you hear that Kubernetes is the thing you should use. Well, that is solving a problem that you might not already have, right? So Kubernetes is really great for building a really robust, scalable service all around. It doesn't necessarily need to be Django. But until you actually hit challenges with scale, it's not something you should worry about. I mean, if you're trying to learn and you get better, then yeah, totally worry about it. But or totally learn about it and get all those things down. But I think a lot of beginner developers, once you start getting more comfortable with building applications, you start to wonder, what are these challenges will I face when I get 10,000 users or 100,000 users and you don't even have 5 users yet, right? Don't worry, I do this as well. Like, I do it all the time too, because you want to think about the success and all those things. So really trying to take a step back and really hone in your skills on very specific things and allowing those roadblocks to sit for a little bit. And then the big part is too, don't be afraid to ask for help. On Stack Overflow, it's a really good place to get help for all sorts of things, especially if it's a novel roadblock. If you can articulate it in a way like, hey, I tried this, this, and this, and I'm still not able to solve this problem. Any ideas? Exactly what you're asking here, but then on Stack Overflow, you've got a lot of developers around the world that could maybe help solve that roadblock for you, especially if it's novel and you are very articulate in how you explain what that problem is. So hopefully that helps answer that question. I'm a beginner in Django. What projects should I try making? Yeah, so anything that interests you. That's how you're going to get through the challenges of learning Django. That's how I did it. That's how many others do it too. Because there's just too many challenges that you will face while you're learning any given project, that if you don't care enough about that project, you're probably gonna leave it. You're probably gonna be like, I don't really want to make another blog or a social network or something like that. That being said, if you don't have an idea for a project, my Try Django series, all of them build projects, and even older ones still teach you Django. So that might be a way to go about doing it. I just finished the Django bootcamp last week. We built a single page e-commerce application, as in one single product, no cart, no checkout, none of those things. But it will show you how to build that. So that's another option as well. But to me, the Try Django series is a really, really good place to start for the vast majority of you Django users. And then after you do try Django, then checking out something like the Django bootcamp that I just did, or the create a Twitter-like application with Django to React. That's like making a big leap then. So hopefully that helps answer your questions. What does it mean in Selenium when an element is not interactable? What it probably means is it doesn't exist on that page. That's often what it could mean, or it doesn't exist yet. You know what I mean? So hopefully that helps answer your questions. Can I make a video about users and group permissions? Thank you for the suggestion. I think the Django documentation is incredible for this, but I've been hearing this a little bit more. So please keep asking. If other people want to see that as well, let me know. And I will try to do something in that vein or along those lines. Make a Docker series. I have a few on Docker already, and they're already on YouTube. So let me know if those aren't adequate, I suppose. Docker is really, really cool. It was fairly complicated to me at first, because I'm like, well, what do you use this for? But think of it as more of like a more robust way to control your environment. So oftentimes I recommend when you're building Python applications, you use a virtual environment. Docker takes that one step further and actually controls the almost on like the virtual machine, almost like on the operating system level, not just the virtual environment level, which is really cool. It makes things really, really a lot easier. How to get a job in Python and Django. There's so many ways to do this. I would say build up your portfolio on GitHub, have a bunch of projects that are complete on there, like they're finished projects with tests, with a README that shows you how to download it and run it. That's true with Python, that's true with Django, JavaScript, that's true with pretty much any technology job. And if you maintain those things too, that's great too. The next thing is maybe writing articles of what you know about Python and Django that maybe other people aren't talking about. That would be a good way to start standing out. Now you use those things so that when you apply to jobs, you can then say, look at all these different things that I'm working on in the space of Python and Django. And my goal is to show you what I'm capable of doing, and feel free to test me on any of those things. That I think would be a good place to start. Build up your portfolio of things that you've actually built, especially. And then writing, the reason I mentioned writing shows that you know how to communicate well. If you don't know how to communicate well, you don't know how to sell your ideas, then you probably won't be hired for very many jobs. Even if you are really, really good at Python and Django, if you can't communicate with your team in an effective manner, and maybe not a like a condescending manner either, then I think you'll be in good shape. So writing really will help you hone that skill, because hopefully you're thinking of the person you're writing for as much as possible. Yeah. Greetings. Hello. Welcome. How can I build a face recognition in Android with a real-time database? That's a good question. Maybe you should come on when I chat with Mitch from Coding with Mitch. He's going to be coming on my live chat podcast thing on Friday. So make sure you subscribe to check that out. That would be a good question to talk to him about. So yeah, if you aren't aware of this, I am going to be doing live chats with all kinds of interesting, or people that I find interesting that I want to chat with. We're going to be doing something very similar to this, but that person will be here with me. I'll chat with them for a while, make it a podcast, have a conversation, and then, I'll probably open it up towards the end. If we have time, I'll open up towards the end to answer your questions. So the first one is with Dennis Ivey. That's on Wednesday, like about an hour before this time. So 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or California time. So yeah, thanks for the question. Can we write function-based views in the Django REST Framework API? Yes, you absolutely can. Check out the documentations for the decorators. I think it's called the API view decorator. I believe that's what it is. You just wrap that in your function-based view, and then you'll have the Django REST Framework API with their the related things you would need to do there. Hopefully that helps. So, yes. I'm really looking forward to chatting with Dennis in a live chat on here. It's something that, like I did an interview with Matt over at Just Django. He'll be on in the future too. But I really enjoy listening to podcasts myself, and I realized it'd be really cool to chat with all of these different people around the world that are doing cool things with software and with entrepreneurship. And I want that for myself. So I figure maybe you guys would as well. So this live chat thing might be end up being pretty cool. So we'll see. Hopefully you guys come out for it. Let's see. Next question. How to use Django with OS tickets? I haven't used OS tickets, so I'm not sure. That's Is that a service itself? I don't know. I don't know. Super chat is not allowed. Is PayPal? There's a PayPal link. You can always throw something my way on PayPal. I think you just scan that with the PayPal app. Like I said, even $1, every little bit helps. Of course, I would love for you to invest in your own skills and go and enroll on cfe.sh. But of course, it's not practical for all of us. Totally get that. I do need a way to make it that any sort of donation turns into one of these super chat things. But yeah, maybe at some point I will do that. Thanks for mentioning that it's not always allowed. That's unfortunate, but it's okay, because I'm here to answer your questions, even if you don't ever give a super chat. That's not really the point, right? The super chat's there just so you can... I'm already 16 minutes behind on these questions, right? So the super chat's there so I can quickly answer whatever it is that you ask me, or you just want to support this, you know what I mean? So here we go. There's a support. Thank you so much. Chandra? Is that how I pronounce your name? Sorry if I absolutely did not pronounce it incorrectly. I did not intend to offend, of course. Thank you just for support. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chandra. Chandra, right? My mom's name is Sandra, so I feel like Chandra is similar, but maybe I'm pronouncing the CH part incorrectly. Okay, so I'm going to pull this PayPal thing down. By all means, let me know if you want me to put that back up. Or you can scroll back, whatever. I have a question about Django. Let's say we have a ready project only with HTML and CSS. How hard is it to integrate JavaScript with it? And then, do we have to install React.js, or is it not necessary? I actually have a video on how to integrate Jenga or JavaScript and Django, regardless of the framework. I'm pretty sure I talk about how to do it with Angular, React, and jQuery. But you don't need to use JavaScript. It's not a requirement to have Django work. Just like in React or Vue or Angular, Django is not a requirement to have those things work either. So it's not that hard to integrate it at all, in my opinion. But I will say that it is something that's worth checking out. Like React itself is worth checking out if you want to use JavaScript. But if your project's ready with just HTML and CSS and Django or any sort of backend, just launch it and add JavaScript as you need more interactive features in the future. You know what I mean? Cool. Celery and Redis servers in production. Can you please explain how it's done? So Celery is a data store, similar to any other sort of database, but it's really just key value pairs that are being stored in a Redis server. So when you put it into production, it just needs to run as a service on that server. Now, something like Heroku, it's really easy to just spin up a Redis-like server where they manage all that stuff for you. Like Heroku is not the only one that does this, of course. But if you want to see the hardcore way of doing it, I have a whole series, including blog posts and videos, called Hello Linux on cfe.sh that shows you how to set up the Redis side of things. Celery, on the other hand, is a worker process that also can run as a service on that same production server. They can be right next to each other. Redis and Celery can be on the same production server. In some cases, it's a good idea. In other cases, it's not. So really, you're just running those two things. You install Redis and you run it, and then it's ready to go. You install Celery and you run it, and then it's ready to go. That's true for production as well. There's obviously a bunch of security considerations that you'd want to have in there, but of course I can't go into all of that detail. I have a whole series on how to do it really, really well. So check that one out. I think that's worth learning, especially from like getting down to the nitty gritty and doing something that's challenging, right? So that's a little challenging. It's really tedious to get to a point where it all works, but that tedium is important when you're trying to learn at a lower level as to how these things actually execute. So yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, so here we go. We got another one here. You did my tweet me e-commerce for fundamentals, REST framework, all auth, Celery, Django Q, which is another type of really cool thing that allows you to schedule tasks and put them into a task queue. Or I'm not sure if the scheduling part's there, but definitely the task queue is there. You worked with channels, did freelance projects. What's my next step in mastering Django? You're doing your masters. Cool. Great questions. So I didn't see much about tests here. So have you done really, really, really intuitive tests? As in, you've written out these tests and they're very clear, they're very clean, and maybe even use Selenium to test other parts of the front end, and just really making a very powerful, robust backend there. The next thing is, have you created your own packages for Django that solve some sort of problem that you see over and over again? That would be another way to do this. Have you done custom user authentication? Yet another one. Have you done? You said you did all auth. Have you done social authentication without using all auth? Have you done authentication without using all auth? Like actually creating the views and the models necessary to have those single time keys and stuff like that. Let's see, what else would be something that would be worth checking out? Oh, have you done Docker with Django? And what are the considerations you need to do in there with deploying Docker projects all over the place and serverless Django? Like, how do you actually get that part working? That Hello Linux series that I mentioned before, can you do all that? Can you do that no problem? This I think would be certainly not just Django related, but a lot of times when you need to deploy something with Django, you need to deploy a Django application, it might mean that you have to jump into the DevOps side of things. It's part of the reason why Hello Linux exists in the first place, is to know how do you actually deploy Django and things that Django might need on a full-on Linux server without something like Heroku, but just any Linux server, even if it's a virtual machine or if you're using like your own cluster and stuff like that. Hopefully that's enough things. I don't know. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Let's see. Hemeth, can I suggest some books to get started with machine learning? Thanks for the question, Hemeth. You probably come on here just as much as anybody, if not as much as anybody. Yeah, let me just grab a book here real fast. Give me 1 second while I grab this. So for just general machine learning, this book right here, Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-Learn, Keras, and TensorFlow, is fantastic. Even if you just go to the scikit-learning stuff and you never get into the deep learning stuff. If you're wanting more deep learning books, Grokking Deep Learning by Andrew Trask. This is like probably my favorite deep learning book right now, because it goes into doing deep learning with just NumPy, which means that it's not using libraries that may go out of date or change dramatically. Speaking of libraries that change dramatically for the better, for sure, is FastAI. So there's another one, Jeremy Howard, huge fan of this one. Now, FastAI has changed, evolved quite a bit along with PyTorch. So this is also a great book as well. But you asked for machine learning. I went from machine learning down to deep learning. Machine learning is a really big field itself. So the last two ones were much more about deep learning and less about just general machine learning. So yeah, happy to chat more about those things if you'd like to. Thanks for the question. So I get this question a lot. What are the pros and cons of Django versus a JavaScript-based backend? Well, actually, Django itself, there is a batteries included framework, which means if you need authentication, Django already has something built in for that. If you need to integrate with the database, like MySQL or Postgres, Django already has that built into it, like natively built into it. A lot of JavaScript-based ones, you have to add on a bunch of different services or packages to make it actually work. Now, there are Django-like options in JavaScript. So whether it's, I'm trying to remember what it was. So I don't actually use the full-fledged Django-like options in JavaScript, but there are batteries included things in JavaScript. They're just not nearly as popular. So like Express.js is probably the most popular way to write a web application in JavaScript, with using the SQLized package to add in the SQL database and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that would be worth checking out and learning more about. But the pros and cons, well, Django is written in Python. That's a pro, in my opinion, especially if you don't know JavaScript that well, because a lot of the syntax of JavaScript, although it's changed a lot in the last few years, a lot of the syntax still can get confusing. Like, do you use require or do you use import, for example? You know, those sorts of questions definitely come up a lot for beginners. So hopefully that answers your question there. Let's see here. QSet. I'm not sure what you're referring to with QSet. Hemeth, you threw me off. No, I'm not swollen. Maybe I'm just a little tired. I don't know. I just naturally get little bags under my eyes. But I don't feel tired. That's the weird thing. Maybe it's all the coffee that I have. And also, it could be the lighting, right? So if I'm back a little bit, I don't know. Maybe I usually wear a hat. Don't be concerned. I'm good. Adonis, that's it. Viper, you're right. Adonis.js and Django are those sort of equivalents. Adonis.js is batteries included JavaScript. It looks really interesting. I do want to play around with it more when I get the time. You know what I mean? Thanks for the questions. And Viper, thanks for adding Adonis. Abraham from Kenya, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Can you summarize how to use models, a modal, excuse me, in Django views for form submissions? I'm assuming you mean a modal. So a lot of times on the front end, you have something called a modal, which is almost like a pop-up, except it doesn't actually open up a new tab or anything. It's just inside of the exact same page. So I'm assuming that's what you mean. Well, you can render out a form anywhere and you can have it go anywhere. So to actually execute a modal, though, you need JavaScript most of the time. I'm trying to think of if you can even execute it without JavaScript. But if you have JavaScript opening up the modal, JavaScript could then also use Ajax to call a Django view. Inside of that Django view, you can have a form that validates the content and use it that way. You don't necessarily need the Django REST framework to validate Ajax calls or JavaScript calls. You can use Django forms. So yeah, thanks for the question. Corey Schaefer and I are the best Python crews we have around. Thank you. I appreciate that. I haven't seen much of Corey's work, but I know a lot of you guys are huge fans of it. So yeah, hopefully at some point I'll be able to get Corey on a live chat like this. So maybe we'll be able to chat about all things Django and Python and YouTube and all of that. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes out. Let's see here. Virtual ENV wrapper or pipenv. I'm not a huge fan of virtual ENV wrapper. I think it adds complexity where it doesn't need to. pipenv makes that really clean. They do similar things, but pipenv works really well cross-platform in my experience. But I also like using the built-in venv. So, you know, it doesn't really matter that much. Just use a virtual environment. That's what I think. You know what I mean? Can we calculate, or how do we do amount calculations in a Django admin site? Do you mean when do you mean to do this? I mean, if you mean it for a model specifically, well, the model can do it. You don't have to do it on the admin side, much like I do in the Django Bootcamp for calculating things. So yeah. Wow, I'm like 30 minutes behind now. I'm actually not sure how much longer I'm going to go. So if you do have questions, just hit me up and I'll be happy to answer them. The Django Masters here. I don't know about that. I feel like there's still so much to learn with all sorts of things Django. I think the real masters are the ones that are the core developers, and you know, people like Jacob Kaplan Moss and Andrew Goodwin. Like those guys are really pushing Django forward. I am just maybe a conduit, not a conduit, that's the wrong word, a voice box for a lot of the work that they do. And obviously I'm missing a bunch of people with the Django core development team over the years. So, but thanks for the comment there. I appreciate it. It's really nice. Thank you. I'm glad you like my haircut. That's funny. Let's see. Here's a question. How do you get a slug from multiple models? What do you mean by getting a slug from multiple models? I don't know what that means. Do you mean the slug value in a saved query set? Well, you can do a value list and get it that way on a query set. Maybe that answers your question. I don't know. Maybe not. Let's see. So you really liked my face recognition using OpenCV. Thank you very much. Please make a video on image recognition using deep learning models or your tight.ai. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely need to get towards doing facial recognition with deep learning for videos. OpenCV makes it pretty easy to do, which is why I think I haven't actually moved into doing deep learning stuff yet. But I think there is a lot of interest in that. And if you are interested, Jeremy Howard at FastAI covers that. So I don't know if he does facial recognition because it's a hot button issue. But I think he does object detection, which is essentially what I did in OpenCV. Thanks for watching. Shifting to iOS development. Cool. Good luck. Or are you asking if I am? I like React Native, so that's how you can do cross-platform mobile application development. Thank you. Why is there also a lot of use of functional views when you can also use class-based views? Well, it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how quickly you're trying to accomplish it, and also how well you know class-based views, right? So if you know function-based views, like it's just a Python function that returns some stuff, right? It's not that big of a deal. Class-based views, just a Python class that returns some stuff, but there's built-in things that are inherent about class-based views that you'd have to know to use them really, really well. So you can use either one. It doesn't matter. I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe it does. Maybe not. What is Django Oscar? I think it's a content management system, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it's an e-commerce one. It's one of those two. I don't use it, so I don't really know. Can you do Django with GraphQL? Absolutely you can. There's, I think it's called Graphene. That's a way to do it. It's a good package. Good package. Let's see. About your Tweet Me Too project, how much percentage-wise in terms of function would you say that resembles real Twitter? 2%? 3%? I mean, the things that drive real Twitter, so much of it is machine learning. And I don't have any machine learning inside of the Tweet Me Too project. But as far as the bones are concerned and where Twitter started, maybe like 90% then. I don't actually know for sure because I wasn't there. But I made a lot of assumptions about it. Now, getting to the scale of real Twitter and handling everything that they do, they change things all the time. So to say that within 12 hours I can accomplish, 12 or 13 hours, I can accomplish what the Twitter team's been doing for like a decade is definitely foolhardy. So yeah, maybe that answers your question. But it does cover a ton. So you will get a really, really solid basis for how to build something like Twitter now and release it, and maybe you get some traction, and then you see the features that people care about. Maybe then you add in machine learning and stuff like that. And when do I plan to continue it? So I'm not sure yet. I think what will actually happen is I'll do things that can be used inside of that project, but not necessarily directly for that project, because it's a long project. I don't usually go back to projects to add things onto them, because the interest in that too is not always that high, right? So there's like a lot of people might watch 10% of it. There's like only a handful of people that really take the effort to watch all of it. I feel like that's true on a lot of tutorials. So I really build it for that 2 or 1% that finish the whole thing. That's who I'm trying to build for. And I think the ones that actually do all of that, it's easy for them to then jump into another series that covers things that maybe I didn't cover in the Tweet Me 2 project, but it definitely adds on what was covered. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but thanks for the question. Appreciate it. You're welcome, Reed. If you're still here, glad that I answered your question. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm new to web development and I don't know what stack to start with. LAMP and Mean are popular in my area, not so much Python. Where should I go? So Python's like probably, to me, the easiest programming language to pick up. Node.js is probably, or JavaScript that Node.js uses. I think it's ES5 on Node.js still. Maybe it's ES6 now. But JavaScript and Python, I think, are the easiest ones to pick up. Python first, JavaScript next. PHP, I don't think is that easy to learn in comparison to those two. Obviously, if you know PHP, you're going to be like, no way, that's not true. But PHP, a lot of it is writing inside of HTML. Perhaps that's changed over the years, but that also then requires you to know something about HTML. JavaScript and Python, you do not need to do that to actually write applications in JavaScript or Python. And also then you're not limited to just the web if you learn those things. So my best advice actually is try them all. Whatever works with you, whatever fits, do that. That's my best advice for you. Yeah. You got the fundamentals with my Tweet Me and e-commerce project. Great. I'm glad. That's good to hear. Let's see here. Okay, so this dude is asking this way too many times. If you ask the same thing over and over, it's a really surefire way for me to not answer your questions again in the future. Just so you know, because nobody likes spam, least of all me. So silly. Like, oh, here, if I ask you 1,000 times, maybe you'll answer it for me. I'm going one by one. I'm sure a lot of you kind of realize that, but I'm not gonna answer the same question over and over again. It's actually kind of frustrating because then it takes away from me answering real questions. Okay, so I've been doing Jenga for about 2 weeks, and I'm switching to Node today because I feel like there's a lot of devs in JavaScript and many frameworks and even Socket.io. Cool. Oh, what's my take on your choice? Yeah, I mean, switch. Node is great too. They both do things really, really well. So it's completely up to you. I mean, like, what am I going to try and convince you to use Django? No, I like Node.js as well. I like Express.js. I like a lot of things about Node. So it just so happens that I'm known on YouTube for Django, but that's like saying like I don't like all these other technologies. I really do. I think even PHP has its place. It's still very popular. I have no idea why. Maybe because Facebook or something. But yeah, anyways. A Django mobile backend would be awesome. Yeah, so this is just really a REST API backend. It's not, Django wouldn't be on the mobile device, most likely. I mean, maybe you could do it, but I don't know. Yeah. Do you have any experience with a Minecraft plugin development? I do not. I don't play enough games to have an interest in that either. Like I've played Minecraft, but like I think I missed the boat on what makes that super interesting. I can see why it is interesting because, you know, I played things when I was younger. I played things like The Sims and SimCity and like building things and all that. So I could see why Minecraft would be interesting. It just never, it didn't catch me at this point in my life, so I don't think it will. Please make a tutorial on neural networks. Django. Yeah, so Django probably wouldn't be making a neural network anytime soon. Django's for building web applications. So I'm assuming you mean like serving the model with Django. And even that, I'm not fully convinced that's the best option. Like Fast API or Flask, you can just literally have the model on one of those applications and then have Django call that as some sort of like microservice. Yeah. Oh, got it. Yeah. So you wanted to know what the next steps are. You did tweet me e-commerce and you got the fundamentals. Well, I mean, did you do tweet me 2 or tweet me 1? If you did tweet me 1, definitely check out tweet me 2. Build a REST API. Learn different places of deployment. I actually just talked about a lot of these things as far as advancing your Django skills, maybe like 15 minutes ago with one of those super chats. So maybe back up to that if you didn't already hear it, because I'm now really far behind. So, yes. What do I think about a career as a cybersecurity analyst, bug hunter, pen tester, audit, etc.? I think those are going to be increasingly important. You'll probably want to add machine learning in there as well, because machine learning will absolutely play a part in security as it already has. So, yes. Invite DevEd also to a live chat. I don't think I know DevEd. I don't know of that person. So, if you can arrange an introduction, please do. Hit me up on Twitter. That's actually true for pretty much anyone that you think would be great on a live chat. Just hit me up on Twitter and I'll maybe we can work something out. So yeah. I really actually want to have clips through these podcasts, right? So I'm kind of hoping that I find somebody who's really good and wants to listen to the entire episode, however long it takes, or the entire chat, and break it apart into clips and topics that we go into. That would be amazing. So if one of you is interested in doing that, hit me up on Twitter, and maybe we can, again, work something out, because I definitely want to have a nice long conversation with all of these different people, and then having little clips of what it is that they're that we talk about, so you don't necessarily have to watch the entire thing to get some of the value that you might want out of it. So yeah, thanks for the question. I don't know if anyone answered that question, but thanks for listening to that. So if you are interested, hit me up on Twitter. That'd be great. Okay, so yeah, how do you actually use it? Yeah, I see that you messed up the question. Thanks for rephrasing it like right away. So what you would want to do is have Django accept the raw user input, and then depending on how quickly you need that processed, you then have a microservice that is like Fast API or Flask, that doesn't have to be exposed to the outside world, right? It could be literally a URL or an IP address that only you know about in your Django project. That Django project then uses that as a microservice to call. It'd be a lot easier if you do it in a like some sort of cloud environment where it's in a VPC or something like that, although that's not entirely necessary. Even easier would be, or maybe not easier, but maybe more effective would be to use something like Celery to offload the actual predictive response for it. The YouTuber Pipeline actually talks about this stuff a good amount, I believe. I don't know if he does it in production yet, but he definitely shows you how to do it. But my approach is how I use it. Because then if for some reason your neural network service is not working, like if it goes down or something like that, your Django application does not go down. That's like the key thing with that. So yeah. Thanks for the question. Waiting for the interview with Dennis Ivey. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited. I'm glad we are playing a role in your Django learning. I'm also going to be having a few other Django developer YouTubers on here at some point as well. So hopefully we get there sooner rather than later. So I would love to see you guys all out there asking good questions, because they will be picking questions from time to time. Next one. Can a Django application handle 100 million requests a day? Certainly not alone, but with modern DevOps techniques, yes. Yes, it can. Instagram is a good example of that. Does it do it by itself? Absolutely not. That would be true for pretty much any backend technology. It would not be doing it by itself, because you would need a really robust DevOps infrastructure to handle that many requests. I highly doubt that if you are asking this question, you have this problem, because you're not coming to me to solve this problem, right? There's way more qualified hardcore dev engineers or DevOps engineers or DevOps practitioners that would much better actually implement this solution. But it definitely can be done. It's amazing the amount of software or hardware you can throw at challenges that would solve a lot of those things. But Instagram's proven that it can be done, so I'll just say that. Make a 2020 machine learning based course on YouTube. I don't know why I read it like that. Thanks for the suggestion. I have them on my website already, so cfe.sh. Go check that out. I've got a couple there. How do I write content dynamically for a website in Django? Example, a blog. Django the admin, the only way to do it. Absolutely not. One of my Try Django series actually shows you how to create a blog and do all that. So that's like a pretty basic thing for Django, to not use the admin, but to use the views and forms and all those things. You know what I mean? So yeah. Okay, guys, so I'm only going to be on a few more minutes, so if you have any last-minute super chats you want to get in, I'm literally 30 minutes behind from all these questions. You know what I mean? It's a lot. You guys ask really good questions, and I try my best to give all the context, perhaps too much context, all the time. So, yeah. Do you have any other questions? Or is this it? Are we going to call it? Maybe you do, maybe not. I will scroll down a bit and skip over quite a few and maybe get some of you last minute ones in here. Yeah, so my channel name on YouTube has always been Coding Entrepreneurs. I did have a Coding for Entrepreneurs channel for a little while, but my YouTube channel literally has always been Coding Entrepreneurs as the primary channel. However, my website is codingforentrepreneurs.com. So Coding for Entrepreneurs, I think the reason I had the YouTube channel as Coding Entrepreneurs, I think I was limited at the time by my username. I couldn't actually put the 4 in there. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just call it Coding Entrepreneurs. And that's what it's been. And then I think they released like these like membership channels, which they now don't have, but then they brought back again. I don't know. So I did have another channel for a little while that was called Coding for Entrepreneurs, but my main channel is Coding Entrepreneurs. So I haven't changed the name at all. Thanks for the question. Do I need to do math for coding? No, you need to know how to write recipes. Recipes, I mean, not a whole lot different than like food recipes, right? So much of software development is like that. But if you don't know what how to break an egg, for example, or folding in cheese, if you don't know what those things are with cooking, you're gonna struggle. And software, it's pretty much, if you've never done it before, you don't know what anything is. So math can come up. If you're trying to get into machine learning, math will definitely come up. But basic algebra, I think, is pretty much all you'll need. If you go any further than that, maybe linear algebra or calculus, but even those things, you probably don't need that either for the vast majority of software projects. Certainly not with a lot of things that I cover when it relates to web development itself. You know what I mean? So, let's see here. Next question. Here's a good one that just came in. Why live stream? Like, as in, why am I live streaming, Sean? Well, it's a way to connect with you guys directly, right? We can ask these questions in real time. And the reason I'm doing the podcast that way is the exact same reason. So I can chat with somebody live, and maybe we get some good questions that we want to answer. And that's it. I don't know. I think that's a good reason. Let's see here. Looks like I'm having a little bit of an issue with what's going on right now. Okay, so it looks like this would be a good time to call it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed these live Q&As. I totally realized that I didn't get to everyone's questions. There is a lot of questions. How to create a React project without Create React App. Oh, this is a good one because I just made a video on it. Check out Parcel.js and that video. You know what I mean? Next one, why is Jenga REST framework important to making a REST API? It just is opinionated about it. It gives you a bunch of options that make it really easy to make a REST API. So yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, guys. So thanks again for coming out for this live chat. I enjoyed talking to you guys. Let me know if you do find other people I want to talk to, or I should talk to. Hit me up on Twitter for that. And especially if you know some of these people, I'm really hoping to get some YouTubers that have been around and been doing it for a little bit longer. And if they're not YouTubers, maybe they're somewhere else. But in other words, I'm probably not gonna be interviewing brand new developers and brand new YouTubers yet. Maybe at some point in the future I will, but right now there's like just way too many really interesting people that have a lot to say and have been doing it for a while. So those are the ones I'm looking for. So thanks for coming out. Thanks for all the great questions. I really think that this is a really great time to be a developer and start to learn stuff, right? So what we don't see and what we won't see for a long time is the impact on the skills that we learn now. I feel that exact same way, right? So I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better. And a big part of that is because of you guys. So thanks for watching and thanks for asking the tough questions. A lot of questions are really helping me also understand what it is that you're challenging with, or what you're having challenges with as well. So yeah, thanks again, and I hope that you guys subscribe if you haven't already. What else do I need to say to wrap up a good YouTube video? Thank you.